Hello, I am Simon Rettig, Associate Curator for the Arts of the Islamic World at the Smithsonian's National Museum of Asian Art. I am delighted to welcome you today to Fashioning an Empire, Design Inspirations from Iran. This special program is one of our online offerings leading up to our celebration of Nowruz, the Persian holiday festival, starting on the vernal equinox, which marks the beginning of the new year and spring, happening next Sunday at 11:33 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find more information about Nowruz and our programs on our website, asia.si.edu/events. Today's conversation with Safoura Zoroofchi and Massumeh Farhad, whom I will introduce shortly, is inspired by our exhibition Fashioning an Empire, Safavid Textiles from the Museum of Islamic Art, Doha, currently on view through May 15. And now I am delighted to introduce our guests tonight, Safoura Zoroofchi and Massumeh Farhad, to talk about not only sumptuous, opulent, dazzling Persian textiles in the 17th century, but also about fashion, style, and haute couture in contemporary Iran. And who better than Safoura Zoroofchi, a designer herself, to help us navigate the surprisingly vibrant and dynamic fashion scene in Tehran today. Born, raised, and educated in the Iranian capital, Safoura received her BA in Persian crafts from Al Zahra University, Tehran, and her MA in illustration from Honar University, Tehran. She is a well-recognized Persian carpet and design specialist, and she also studied textile design at the St. Martin's School of Design, University of Arts, London. Over the past decade, she has participated in numerous group exhibitions and has held solo ones in Tehran, London, and New York. Safoura's work truly bridges the traditional with the contemporary, looking at the past to find inspiration for the creation of new designs for the present. To conduct this conversation with Safoura about past and present in fashion in Iran and about her, we have Massumeh Farhad, the Ebrahimi family curator of Persian, Arab, and Turkish art, chief curator, and the senior associate director for research here at the museum. Holding a doctorate from Harvard University, Massumeh is a leading specialist of the arts of Iran and of the Persian book, with a particular interest for the Safavid period, from the 16th to the 18th century, which is the focus of her exhibition, Fashioning an Empire, Safavid Textile, from the Museum of Islamic Art, Doha. Massumeh is going to give us a quick overview of the exhibition, and if you have not already, please come to Washington, DC, and visit the show. Those textiles and other works, such as oil on canvas, are absolutely stunning. Massumeh, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Simon, for that introduction. I'm delighted to be here and delighted to be here with Safoura. And wanted to tell you a little bit about the exhibition that Simon just mentioned, and I do hope you come and see it. It's up until May 15th. And it really brings together some of the great strengths of our museum, the National Museum of Asian Art, and also the Museum of Islamic Art in Doha, which you see on the slide. And the museum in Doha has a remarkable collection of Persian art, especially of the Safavid period, in particular on textiles, and what we'll see is some really remarkable oil paintings. And of course, our museum is world-renowned for its collection of manuscript paintings. May I have the next one, Simon, please? So when we were deciding about this exhibition, and this collaboration actually began prior to COVID, and somehow it survived, and we were able to open the exhibition in late December. The museum in Doha and the Friar Sakla decided to focus on the Safavid period, in particular the 17th century and the reign of Shah Abbas. And here I'm showing you the celebrated Isfahan Maidan, and on the side is a picture of Shah Abbas. And the reason that we decided to focus on textiles in particular is because in the 17th century, textiles became the backbone of Persian economy. Textiles have always been really important, critically important to Iran. It was grown in the province of Mazandaran and Gilan, and had always been exported and was one of the great commodities associated with Iran. But during the 17th century, what happened is that Shah Abbas, thank you, Simon, decided to monopolize the production and export of textiles. And this was also the time that coincided with the arrival of the Portuguese, the Dutch, and then the English, and on their boats to the Persian Gulf, who then exported these textiles to Europe. And at the time in Europe, these Persian textiles were the most sought after commodities that you could have, and brought in a great deal of wealth to Iran. So this is the entrance to the exhibition. And may I have the next one, please? And so you see, just to give you a sense of what the exhibition is like, this is how I decided to pair the textiles with paintings in order to contextualize the use of textiles, how they were worn, what, the types of clothing that they were made into, the types of uses that were particularly popular during the 17th century, and then also what types of things were exported to Europe, how European fashion and designs influenced Persian and vice versa. May I have the next one? So here, this is another view of the exhibition, and you will see on the left-hand wall is a painting, for instance, of an Armenian woman, and we'll see her later on as well. And she is dressed in some of the finest textiles of the period, but the format is very unusual. It is an oil painting, and oil painting was a technique that was introduced from Europe to Iran in the 17th century as a result of this trade exchange, and as a result of Iran sort of opening up to the West, and Western merchants coming to Iran in order to buy the silk. And when they came, they brought new ideas and new works with them. So here are two examples of the type of works that you will find in the exhibition. And one is a carpet, a Safavid carpet that sort of became the craze in Europe in terms of the coloring. It's the red ground with these wonderful sort of big leaves and designs. And the other one is a velvet with these two figures. And here again, you see the figures. They don't particularly look Persian, because they are inspired by Dutch paintings, by Dutch figures. So, but they have been adapted to a Persian technique, and the flowers are definitely very Persian looking. So it's this combination of East and West. And this is a theme that I hope that Safoura and I can also explore as we look at fashion in Iran today, this idea of these merging of this different styles and different perspectives. So Safoura, we're waiting for you to join me. Thank you, Safoura. So we are now fast forwarding to the present. And what Simon and Safoura and I thought to do this evening is really to sort of look at the past, look at the exhibition that we put together, and see how it relates to the present. In some ways it does, in some ways it does, in some ways it doesn't, but really sort of explore the relationship and also give you a sense of what contemporary fashion is like in Iran today. And for that, again, we're delighted to have Safoura, because Safoura grew up in post-revolutionary Iran, so she is an eyewitness to some of the changes, and she's a textile designer herself. So a perfect combination to be able to help us and navigate us through this story. So the image that we're showing you here on the screen is an image I'm sure is familiar to all of you, because this is the type of image that we see in the media all the time. Women dressed in very drab black veil or a chador, which is called it's called in Persian, walking around the streets. But when we look a little closer, I think the reality is quite different. And here I would like to turn to Safoura, because again, as somebody who grew up in Iran and sort of experienced, going out on the street, getting dressed, etc., and really sort of help us understand what it was like to grow up in this post-revolutionary Iran. And maybe, Simon, maybe we can go to the next slide, and maybe Safoura can help us with some of these images. What we'll do is we're just going to talk about some of about the slides that we're going to show, just to get a better sense of Iran and its contemporary fashion. So Safoura, could you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up, what you wore, what you saw, what you remember in terms of the street life in Tehran?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be a part of this talk. Thank you for the invite, Massumeh. Well, as you said, it was quite a journey since the revolution. For me, growing up in Tehran was an interesting journey. Well, it was like when I was a young girl, well, there was not much color in town, like in Tehran. Like the color palette was black, blue navy, and the different shades of gray. So that was, even white was not acceptable. So for me, it was like gradually moving from a black and white, colorless scene of a movie to a vibrant and more cheerful life as time went by. So, and it's all thanks to women, and I can tell you why.
Well, I think we can already see it in this, in these. Sorry, I just wanted to point one thing out, because, and I have to give Instagram credit here, because most of these images come from Instagram and from Tehran Times. So in case you wonder what our sources are, and of course Safoura has also been very kind and has asked her friends to take some photographs for us. So we'll show some of those as well. So clearly this is because the woman in the center is wearing a mask. We know it's quite a recent image, right? And I think Safoura, you commented about this photograph about the two women together. One is completely clad in black. The woman next to her, you said probably is a relative.
Relative or a friend. And she's wearing laced gloves, which is like and I know why she's wearing that, because to cover her like red nail polish, most probably. But it's
so
very...
already a difference from, you know, from the early days of the revolution when you grew up. Simon, can we have the next one? And I guess here again, a big contrast about the color. I mean, I think Safoura, again, you remarked about the way that the woman is wearing her scarf. Do you want to share that with our audience?
Yes, well, everything has changed, like from using like the marmae, which I don't know what is marmae, like the headscarf, which is what was in one piece, and then they used we used square or rectangular scarves, and then we would knot it under our chin. But nowadays they just like wrap it around their neck. It's very flowy. It's very relaxed. Like
these two images.
Yeah, like these two images. And then I should say fashion in Iran is quite rebellious.
Can you tell us more about that? And here it is, an image of a woman. She looks pretty rebellious to me. So, but sort of tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, it's not just a way of expressing themselves. Like clothing is not just a way of expressing themselves and their styles. It's also a way of resistance, a way of showing their resistance again towards the imposed laws for hijab, for covering. So every single day when we dress up, when we go out, we are entering a battle. It's like, you don't know what you're gonna face today, you know. It's just like, if it's going to be acceptable, if someone is going to comment on your clothing, but well, they did great so far.
And I think we all, by the way, the three of us here chose all the images, and it was, I have to say, it was a lot of fun. And when we came across this image, it was, as Safoura says, about going to battle. And clearly these three women mean business, even though they're not as colorful as some of the other women we saw, but I would not mess with these three women in terms of their attitude. And Safoura, tell us about these images that you
well, I can say I haven't been in Tehran for 4 years, and then, you know, lots of things have changed. But what I can see is like turban is more popular these days. Now they're showing their necks. They're just covering a hair like very casually, and then they're showing their earrings, their accessories, their necks and necklaces and everything. And you know, life goes on. It's just like none of these can limit them. You know, it's just like they live their lives and they're happy.
And again, when we looked at these photographs, I mean, we were saying, well, this could be anywhere. I mean, if I didn't know they came from Tehran, you know, it could be Vancouver, it could be Seattle, it could be,
yeah,
you know,
the couple on the right could be a hipster couple from Brooklyn, like easily. It's just like
so this is and again, I think this is something, as we discussed, is sort of a change and a transformation that perhaps is not always reported or represented in the media here. And as you say, this sort of using textiles and fashions to make a statement is something that is not as well publicized. And I think it's a great comment that you made. Sort of moving on, is I wanted to sort of go back and forth between the past and the present. And one thing I think in the that already, we saw in some of the street scenes, and I think we will see some more, is this idea of layering. And layering also, when you look at fashion in the Safavid period, was sort of the way that both men and women dressed. You wore one layer on top of the other. And if it was cold, you put on an extra layer. If it was warm, you would take one off. It would also show your wealth and status by the more you put on, the wealthier you were. And it was a style that was used for men and women. The difference in the Safavid period was in the that the men wore turbans and the women didn't. Now women wear turbans, so things keep shifting. But again, sorry, can you go back, Simon? Just one. So we were struck by the sort of the comparison of these two images of seeing being this young woman, sort of in a way that the way that she's dressed reminded all of us of the 17th century Armenian woman on the left. But let's go to the next one now, Simon. And Safoura, you had some wonderful comments about these three women. I was surprised that they were wearing sandals, but I'm going to let you tell us all about the outfits.
So as you said, layered looks were always a popular way of dressing in Iran. And after the revolution, I believe that was the only way of dressing, because you had to cover and cover and cover, how you had different layers. And then, but they were showing, by using different colors, textures, and fabrics and patterns, they were creating that look of layers. You see like the one on the right, the picture on the right, you can see the layers by just, there's a jacket in red and black. And the interesting part was for me, the interesting part was that they're all sort of see-through and transparent, but they are covered underneath, so it's okay to wear such overcoat.
So again, it's resistance. They're abiding by the rules, but they're also being subversive, and that's something that women in Iran have certainly, I think, have perfected over the last few decades.
Yes, we are very good at pushing boundaries. Yes, again, in this picture, you see layers by, showing different colors, patterns, and textile and texture and fabrics. And I love these looks.
So tell us about this one.
Well, again, it's a good example for layers, and then it's a good combination of Western and Eastern design as well. Like she's wearing like combat boots, jeans, and then this very traditional fabrics in a very modern cut. Yes, again, here, this was your favorite Massumeh Jan.
Well, as I lived in Iran pre-revolution, I thought this particular image was quite poignant, because the young woman is wearing clearly an outfit that belonged to her mother, or it's modeled after what her mother was wearing. And in the portrait, you see her mother is not wearing a head covering, but what she is wearing, and Simon noticed this, so Simon gets the credit here, that she is wearing pants under her skirt. So again, it sort of changes, it shows the sort of the subtle changes from pre-revolutionary Iran to post-revolutionary Iran, is, you know, the shifts of the norms. The next one, okay. So Safoura, this is
this is the ultimate example for layers. Just like you see all these see-through and like different texture and textile, and it's just a very glamorous layered look.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, this could be anywhere. If you say Tehran, Iran, you'd think it's, I don't know, Paris or New York, or actually it has a certain Japanese look to it as well. So
definitely. Yeah, because of the origami. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is called origami. So
when do women wear that? It's not when you go to the market, you know, buying
no,
a dress like that. So it's for still special occasions that.
Well, you can wear it at a party without the, you know, the sleeves. You can wear it, you can see more of this sort of design on Fridays on gallery opening nights. Like people dress like these extravagant, like they do. Yeah, and it's quite popular, and it's common to wear something this extraordinary. Like you won't, as you said, you won't wear it in a market, but you can see this in different part of town, mostly in the northern part.
And as you were saying, it's also women. I mean, it's, you know, women dressing for each other, right? I mean,
definitely. I think there's a competition there just for women, because like when you in the more traditional families, when they're at their wedding parties, they're separated, men and women are separated. So when they wear all these beautiful provocative dresses, there's no man to, you know, impress. They're just women showing their beauty to each other, and it's just
great. So one thing that Persian textiles are known for are their very rich and intricate patterns. So again, these are 3 examples from the exhibition, but then we also wanted to look at what contemporary Iranian designers do with patterns. So we're going to start with this, and Safoura would love to get your ideas and your impressions about this jacket.
Well, it's very colorful and beautiful. And again, the designer was trying to show layers by using different colors, texture. But here the designer was using a traditional fabric like terme, but the back side of the fabric, and you know, the sleeves and the pocket is in a different, it's the back of the terme, and it's just so beautiful. It's very modern and still using the same, you know, it's still using the very traditional fabric and design, but it has a very modern look.
And terme is a type of paisley design cloth that became very popular. That was actually originated in Iran, then moved to India, and then of course the British took it over, and so that's why sort of paisley has become so popular, and so popular especially in Europe. So what happens is that in Iran they sort of use the backside of it. Again, this is the work of an Iranian designer, right? So this is very different even from some of the earlier works that we saw. I mean, even the jacket that we just saw before. I mean, these are big, bold designs. So can you tell us when this particular style became popular? And again, actually, sort of the question that Simon asked, where would you wear this? Would you wear this on the street? Would you, where would you wear something like this?
When you're going for a dinner,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you're going to cafes, like, you know, they go, they're like, that's their social life. Like you go to restaurants, cafes, and then about the time, I should say, it all happened very gradually. You can't say when exactly it happened, because the thing is, Iranian artists are really good at combining the Western and Eastern elements and somehow Persianizing the design. You know, this is a perfect example for, you know, we were following the trend of the Eastern, but by Western and Persian, you know, by from Western into Eastern, but like in Persian, like in the 90s, we were wearing, you know, sort of Persian clothing, but we were, you know, I was wearing Doc Martens and all my friends were wearing Doc Martens. Like it was very trendy, and you know, you couldn't go to school without a Doc Marten. And like in the 80s, you could, you know, even though they were wearing scarves and manteaus, you can even from the picture you can tell the time. This is 80s, like these epaulettes, like, and then, you know, we were following the trends, but it was very Irani. It was very Persian.
And talking about very Persian, I mean, you were saying how designers sort of borrowed from the West, but sort of Persianized it. I think in this image, again, this is a designer who works both in Canada and in
Tehran.
In Tehran. You can sort of see her source of inspiration, which is sort of more traditional Iranian. So can you tell us, I mean, a little bit about that, how designers also sort of draw on their past? Is that, you know, how common is that?
I think because of the rich background history that we have, you can't ignore it. You just somehow are, you know, drawn to that. You know, you can't ignore that. And then the same designer, you know, Simon John, could you go back to the same designer, this Leila Kashani was the designer who did the black layered, all black in different, and it was interesting. It was all in black, but, you know, the layers were in different texture and patterns. I see. I think it's just impossible to forget your past. You know, it comes to your work.
Absolutely.
No matter. Yeah.
So why don't we go to the next one? Okay, talking about the past. So tell us about these designs.
Yeah, as you said, now women are wearing turban, but it's very feminine. You know, this lady is very feminine. Again, showing all the colors and layers. But, you know, it's interesting how they can still be very feminine with all these covering that they have to do. It's so beautiful.
Well, again, and again, this is another example of layering and covering and combining, you know, and again, in contrast to what you see in the media, where everything looks, you know, when you think about Iran or when they show Iran, everything is so drab and dark and dreary. Actually, you know, these are actually joyful. So it's a different side of Iran. Can we go through? I'm looking at the time. I mean, so which is great. I mean, there's so much to say about these. So Safoura, again, this is the terme look, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yes, you know, after the revolution, I should say, like this saying applies, that limitation is the mother of innovation and creation, because like they are limited in certain ways, and then they become so creative in this way of, you know, could you go to the last one? Yes, here again, she's wearing terme, but it's the backside of the terme. It's really beautiful and modern, still wearing the same you know, fabric, but it gives you a modern sense, a modern look.
We have
brilliant.
Yeah. So this is another use of using terme, a very traditional cloth, and the jacket on the left is sort of more traditional, and the one on the right is traditional. The one on the left is quite wild with those sleeves.
Yes, those.
Simon, can we have the next? Oh, we didn't want to leave out men.
You can't.
So can you tell us about this, about these?
What was interesting? Yeah, what was interesting in this picture on the right was the similarity of the pattern that was used for the coat, and then the example that you had in your exhibition at the museum. It was just so beautiful. Like even, you know, just you can see the paths now.
Exactly. So it's sort of interesting. Okay, colors and patterns. Why don't we go to the next one and look at the, so Simon, I know you really like this image, so tell us about it.
I liked it because it's very colorful, you know, it's casual style, but it's very colorful, you know, like, you know, that picture that makes me want to go to Tehran, like now, you know. It's original, you know, when it's casual style, but it's very, I think, very very original and colorful. And
talking about color,
Safoura talk about those colors, like bright colors that are used now. No. And
Safoura, back to your idea of self-expression. Can you tell us a little bit about how you see color as a way of, you know, how women use color in their appearance? I mean, here we sort of, you know, we tend to go for black and navy, all the colors that you know were the ones that you first grew up with. But look at this. I mean, they're
really brave. I wouldn't wear, like, I always wear, even here I wear black and like dark clothes, but I love watching these girls. Like, I think I don't know, I'm trying to figure out where exactly it is in Tehran, but you know, she's all covered, very stylish. You know, no one can say like there's something wrong with, you know, from like the morality police can't stop this girl, because like she is all covered, but at the same time very stylish and glamorous,
making a point.
Making a point. I'm here, see me, like I exist, see.
And again, the layered look with patterns. Simon, can we have the next one? Let's go to the calligraphy section. Oh, and we love this. So it's not only, as you can see, color is not only for the young, but also even the lady on the left to me is as young as anyone else. So actually, Safoura, so is this sort of more, this use of color, is this something that sort of now everybody embraces?
Definitely. This could be my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law would wear all these beautiful floral, patterned jackets and scarves. And she really doesn't believe in scarves. So she has the scarf just for the sake of having it.
Well, we couldn't resist this comparison of our 17th century painting and this young man with Safoura. Can you tell us again? This is I think it's a terme, right?
I think it's a terme. I think in the other pictures I could identify the terme, but now I can't. But it's a beautiful patterned textile. And as you see, men and women, they both use all these they make all these very courageous choices for styling. And I love the similarity between these two is amazing.
So just finally, of course, calligraphy and writing, which has been a central part of Persian art for millennia, and it is still as popular as it ever was, and also integrated into designs, including Safoura's own, and we'll get to it. But why don't we go to the next one, and Safoura, tell us about these two carpets.
Oh, definitely. Well, calligraphy was always a very popular way of form of art. And nowadays it's, artists are using it more as a graphical element rather than calligraphy. This may mean nothing, but it's just like beautiful, like the combination of elements and the colors and everything. It's just make a beautiful image. So now they are using calligraphy as a way of, they're using it as an element, and they use it in their designs. So it's more stylized calligraphy, but it's still calligraphy. You can tell it's still calligraphy. And
not necessarily as the next one also that we see. It doesn't, you can sort of see her on I guess it's her coat, doesn't really say anything, as you say, it's more design.
It is more design, correct.
We have the next, and again here.
True.
Okay, and this one, though, you have to talk about this one because this is very funny.
Yes, and I love this one because truly this is like the artist was using the calligraphy as an graphical element. Because if you could read Farsi, it's a recipe for a stew. But when you don't know that, it's just a beautiful play between white and black, and the spacing and the elements. It's just like, it's very nice and appealing. But it's saying something which is completely irrelevant to a shirt.
But also it shows that Persians or Iranians have a sense of humor, which is also not something that always necessarily comes through in the media.
Definitely.
Okay. Definitely. So let's now turn to your own work as a designer and your sources of inspiration. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my own start in the fashion industry started with working in a fashion house in Tehran. We have this underground fashion world in Tehran with like underground music that we have. Like there are lots of underground arts going on. So I used to work in a well-known fashion house in Tehran. And there we were using, we were trying to combine the traditional elements with the Western designs, and our clientele were asking for it. They really wanted to, they were traditional families who wanted to be respectful to their traditions and still wanted to be modern. So like we had this bride from Yazd, from a wealthy family, and they, based on their tradition, they wanted a green wedding dress, because apparently they used to have green wedding dresses. So we designed a green wedding dress, but in a modern style wedding dress, as you could see in the West. Or like for my wedding dress, we used an old handmade textile, which is called naqde, which is embroidered silver on a meshed cloth. And well, it was a very modern dress, but we were using this traditional fabric and patterns. And it was still very Irani. So I loved it because it was Irani. I was wearing a Irani wedding dress. And they used to wear that fabric as a veil, like the, in the Qajar eras, like, so for weddings, so the bride would wear that. So, but I was wearing it in a different way. Yeah, I wasn't covering my hair, but it was part of my wedding dress. So I loved it.
So again, it's bringing sort of the past and the present and sort of traditional and modern together by using calligraphic elements in your design.
Definitely,
and
yes,
your designs.
Yes, and then for me, calligraphy was always very interesting form of art. And then what you can see is a very stylized way of calligraphy, but it all started from illustrating story by Rumi, by calligraphy, and then throughout time I just I stylized the whole calligraphy to this simple dot or noqte, literally, which is a very crucial element in calligraphy, because most of the letters, some letters and most of the words have this dot, and you can't read without these dots. It gives an identity to the letter. So then it became my element, so I owned it. So now I use it in my jewelry, in my all designs, like scarves, bags, and most of my designs. Like it's just, I can express myself with these. It's just, and I'm very happy that I
Wonderful.
found.
Wonderful. So again, we just wanted to, I'm looking at the time. We would like to give our audience the opportunity to ask us questions. We just wanted to end with some sort of lasting images of Tehran, of two women who, again, color, design, attitude, which is really something, again, that is less covered in the media or less known in the West. But I think it's a very important part of, I think, Iranian identity. And of course, the men. And we're just going to end with this, we thought, amusing pairing of, again, sort of the connection between past and present. And on the left, we have a gentleman dressed in 19th century attire, and on the right is actually an image from our collection that shows a mendicant, a dervish, sort of dressed in a similar way. So again, past, present, West, East, tradition, modernity, in ways that Safoura, you mentioned, has become a way for women to express themselves and resist
for sure.
the controls that have been imposed on them in terms of how they should behave or what they should dress, how they should dress in society. So on that note, Simon?
We have a few minutes for questions, and thank you so much, both Safoura and Massumeh, for this very enlightening conversations. You know, we could stay here until late in the evening, but fortunately, you know, we have to end this program soon. So a few questions from the audience. There is an interesting one about like sort of the separation between public and private. How does the fashion on the street today differ from everyday fashion at home or for family gathering? You know, you mentioned that for weddings or larger celebration. Is it more expressive in the private sphere than on street, of course?
It's hard to say because it's so expressive, like the way they dress up for going out. I can't say which one is more expressive, but I can say it's almost the same, but in the private gatherings, it's less covering. And when you go out, it's, you know, because they are following a trend, you know, you can't wear, you know, it can't be that different. So I think when you go out, it's just more covering. And, you know, where it depends on where you're going. If you're going to bazaar, you won't wear such clothing. But, you know, if you're in the northern part of Tehran, yes, that's how you go out.
And I think that goes with an interesting question of where are these clothes sold? Like high-end department stores, boutiques, you know, are these all bespoke, like on street stalls, I mean, everywhere, or because it's not where you wear them, it's also where you get them, you know, or do you work on them at home, you know, do you refashion them? That's sort of an interesting question.
I think it depends on your budget and the exposure, you know, and you know, if you are exposed to this underground fashion houses or not. But mostly, I don't think that you don't get the look. You buy these pieces and you make the look yourself. You know, you get this layered jacket, but you again layer it with different you know, objects like accessories. You can get, you know, your manteaus from a store, but you know, if you're looking for something extraordinary, you should go to a fashion house. But you know, before, for some years we had these fashion weeks in Tehran. Now they are banned, and now there are some galleries that are showing the dresses and, you know, these clothing you can see at these galleries. There are two galleries that I know that you can go there, and you know, because of Instagram, you know where to go. So it's like everything is on Instagram. So it's not that hard anymore.
Another question also is about the fabrics. You know, those fabrics using traditional fabrics, some are using like traditional patterns and motifs, but they're still made today. Are they made in Tehran? Are they made elsewhere in Iran? Is there like
Some of them.
Is there a real domestic market for that?
I think it's very limited. The production in Iran nowadays is very limited, but it is there, and they are trying to, you know, bring it back. But you know, the patterns, you can get it from fabric from Italy. you still have the same pattern, because like these patterns are, but you know, the successful ones are the ones that are using the old fabrics and using it in a different way, and, you know, giving it a modern look.
Mm-hmm. I think it's probably, you know, it's difficult to compete with, let's say, Chinese fabrics. I know when the last time I was in Iran, I mean, it was like now 10 years ago, it was like in the bazaar, everything was Chinese. So, but of course there are still, you know, fabrics that were made in the early 20th century, as you mentioned, like all the terme, etc. That can be used.
There is a question about like if it would be possible to see the wedding dresses. So I'm afraid that we will have to do a special session on wedding dresses in Iran, which is a fantastic topic, I think. And the last question is like talking about Instagram, and that, you know, you need Instagram in Iran to know where to go. What Instagram handles are your favorites to follow? You follow?
Oh, the best one is Tehran Times.
Your own Instagram.
Well, I don't follow my own Instagram, so I think the Tehran Times is the best, because like this guy Araz is doing a fantastic job by introducing and featuring different designers and artists through his platform, through his Instagram page.
You're talking about Araz Fazaili.
Yes, Araz Fazaili.
So,
I think his page is the Tehran Times. The Tehran Times.
Well, thank you very much, Safoura and Massumeh. I'm sorry to say that this program is coming to an end. Thank you again, Safoura, for sharing your work, passion, and stories, you know, about from Tehran with us. And thank you, merci, Massumeh, for your knowledge, expertise, and also passion, you know, for sharing Persian art. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. I hope you've discovered something new. I learned a lot. I wish we could all go together on a trip to Tehran and Iran these days, but, you know, maybe later in the future. In the meantime, I want to remind you that the exhibition Fashioning an Empire, if ever you want to come, at least, you know, a piece of Isfahan in the 17th century, the exhibition is up through May 15th. So come and see these beautiful artworks in person at the museum. You can visit our website, asia.si.edu, or follow us on social media for information about upcoming events and coming to the museum, of course. Thank you again, and Nowruz Mubarak. Happy Nowruz to all. Thank you. Goodbye.